And then, Brandy, Megan is on as well because Ralph had some questions regarding locations
Mhm.
and some of the mapping data and stuff. So she's here to elaborate on his questions he sent in advance. So just going to give you a heads up before you jump in.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks. Great. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. It seems like a light group, but that's all right. So a couple of things just to start off. It's all beat all the time, as you guys know at this point. And there's other things, of course, happening at CBO. It's not just speed, but this is a hot topic for us. We launched our benefit of the bargain round today at 10 a.m., which will carry us through July 21st. So approximately 2 weeks for people to resubmit applications or submit new ones underneath the new policy guidance. We published our guidelines. We continue to publish FAQs in real time for people that are asking questions. We also published our final BEAD eligibility location list, and it was published last week. So we've been trickling out information over the last, I would say, week and a half, and we kind of hit the go button today. So anticipating hopefully good participation in this last version, third version of this program. So we'll see what we get, but this is quick, fast, and furious. So we're going to do our best to support people, our applicants and stakeholders as much as possible. This isn't obviously how we would roll out a grant program. Obviously, the timeframes are really tight, and we would love to give you all more, love to give people more time, but we are just not at the liberty at all of giving people more time to do this program. So this does present some delays. So we are getting questions about anticipating when we're finishing up here this program. So if anybody's wondering when we can reasonably expect to see BEAD dollars flow to locations, it's going to be sometime next summer, a little over a year from now. The reason why I say that is because there's still some unpredictability and uncertainty in the program. The NTI hasn't really given us kind of what they're measuring us by in terms of cost per location, whether they're going to like our tech neutral plan or not. I know the one thing I do appreciate is the quickness with the rollout anyway, in terms of getting us our information, improving things right away. And I feel like if the NTI had maybe taken that approach earlier, we'd be much further ahead. But I also realize the initial rollout of a national program was really challenging for the agency. So we've kind of seen a couple iterations of the program. So of course now it's more efficient because we ruled a lot of things out. So, but anyway, we continue to support our applicants, support stakeholders and their questions, and really encourage the people that did apply to apply again. Obviously I spent a lot of time and money on making those applications, and hopefully they'll repurpose them and upload them again, and so forth. So also welcoming new applicants as well. If we've missed anything and we can do something better for less, we're certainly open to it as well. And so we'll see what we receive. One of the things that I'll pause there and see if anybody has any questions on 1.A here before I move on to the scalability piece. All right, cool. I'll move along to scalability then. We had a roundtable call a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and we were really asked a ton of questions on scalability. Philosophical differences were brought up, what the CBO can do and what we can't do. I just want to say the reason I kind of pushed back a little bit on some of the conversation was because we really can't tell people with any certainty what the results are. And we have our decision tree, which we kind of we put together to help people walk people through our decision-making process. It's called the decision tree. It's on our website. It talks about, all of the steps that we're going to run a process through, and where applicants, rise to the top and where they don't. So wanted to make it as clear as possible. Scalability is absolutely part of the equation, but we also have to be mindful that the new program really prioritizes the lowest bids. So we have CBO in a lot of states, well, every state, regardless of where they were in the process, is going to have to really balance those and make sure that we're doing our best to get the best results. So that was really in response to, you know, the questioning and disagreements of of what people were saying on the call. So and I respect disagreements and counterpoints. Like the challenge of that isn't I'm, you know, for me it's okay. You know, I want to make sure that we're getting the right information to people with some clarity so that they feel that they have what they need. So it was a good conversation, and as a result, we will make sure that we have some transparency into our decision-making process to the extent that we can, of course, because it's an open bid. We do have a questionnaire as well on our website to make it crystal clear how we're assessing scalability. And so you can't just say that you scale and you can offer all this bandwidth for certain things. You have to be able to show us improvement. We have to be able to test it. So really want to be sensitive to that as well. And that is a document that you upload with your application. So it is in spreadsheet form. We did not have time to, again, roll out the application with all the documents in because it does take some developing work on our part or developer work. And so we wanted to bring this up. We wanted to make sure we moved quickly so we have enough time for not only the application review, but also the timeline for folks that are going to apply for the first time or reapply. So that's where we are with that. I just wanted to call that out specifically because it was quite the conversation. So with that, any questions on BEAD so far? I think, you know, the team has done a fantastic job of pivoting really quickly. It's not easy redesigning a $1 billion program from a $1 billion program that you designed. So, you know, this is, I don't want to say it's the best we can do because I never say that because I feel like you can always do better, but we are putting our best foot forward with the timelines that we have. So we just appreciate everybody's patience and just helping us move these things along so that we can be successful in this last iteration of the program. So I'll pause right there and see if anybody has anything.
Hey, Brandy, did I hear you say, maybe I misheard you, but did you say that you all would prioritize the lowest bids?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I thought that's what I heard. All right, thanks.
They have to be scale, so you have to qualify. But yes, it's the benefit of the bargain, and the main criteria is price. This is a price-based program. Assuming that you have scalable technology and you meet eligibility criteria, those bids have the criteria is very clear. It's a cost-based program. It's I don't want to say it's identical to RDOF, but it smells a lot like RDOF. You know, there's differences, of course, and if you're not familiar with RDOF, it's a Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. We're going to do our best to make sure that it doesn't end up that way. But when you look at the cheapest price, you're usually looking at it's a major deviation from the original idea. So, but yeah, that's correct, Sandra. We do have to prioritize the price quite significantly in this program.
Okay, so you list the qualifications or what criteria they must meet, even though they've been lower? Okay.
Yeah, the eligibility criteria hasn't really changed much. The biggest difference is we're including all technology, right? So we're not saying it's fiber first. The criteria isn't weighted towards fiber. It's pretty open to the extent that you are eligible and you can scale. So that's where we are. So it's open to everybody, all the providers. Unlicensed fixed wireless. Obviously, fixed wireless was part of the eligibility criteria before, and the state actually, as a result of round 1 and round 2, we had a really great technology mixed program. And I would say we were always technology neutral in our preparations, intake applications, as well as our results. So hoping we can do that again in this version of the program, but we'll see. Go ahead,
Okay.
Eric.
On that flow chart that you have, there in the second step where it says, is the priority broadband application cost excessive? Is that based off your extremely high cost threshold that you previously applied, or is that something new that's being applied in this round onto you?
It's being, well, it's a combination of a lot of criteria, but I'll be honest, we can't use our 10,000 that we were using. It's one of many data points. Excessive costs, we're using cost quest market data, we're using our previous broadband programs, we're using, we're using different data points. But ultimately excessive costs are going to be anything that's in excess of the cheapest proposals. So, or I think the only thing that might make a difference, Eric, is if there's BSLs that don't receive any bids, right? And or just one bid. We can entertain maybe a deviation from lowest cost because there's not a competing bid, but this is a low cost program. So our excessive costs, we don't have guidance on what excessive costs are per the NTI. They have not given us that. So we're kind of flying blind here in terms of threshold, but they're not giving us a threshold, they're not going to give it to us. So we're going to do our best with our submission, our final proposal, and hope that the NTI doesn't see them as excessive costs. But that's where we are with that. We don't have like a policy, if you will, at this point, just a couple of different data points and the criteria in the program. Go ahead, Ralph.
Yeah, I was wondering, the survey, what's the purpose of the survey?
The questionnaire.
Yeah, the questionnaire.
So the questionnaire is to have applicants tell us, based on certain parameters and criteria that we know, whether their technology scales. And they have to explain that to us so we can evaluate whether it scales or not. So that's the questionnaire.
It's part of the application process then.
It's part of the application process, and applicants have to include it with their application to us.
Yeah, Ralph, we use that in order to be a priority application, you have to be scalable. And if you're not scalable, then you're a non-priority. You can be bumped down to a non-priority application. So it's questions. It's not done on a per technology basis, not per se. So we're not just excluding technologies wholesale because it's the technology for the given project area. So in one area, it may be a priority, and in another area, that same technology could be a non-priority because it, like take Leo, for example, in the Denver urban area, I don't think Leo is going to scale. But in rural Colorado, maybe Leo is scalable. So we have to assess it on a per project basis, and that determines whether you're priority or non-priority. I don't know if Ralph.
Yeah, I got it
there for a second.
Yeah, I lost my connection.
Okay, there you are.
Yeah, but I'm back. I understand.
Okay.
Any other questions before we hop into Ralph, your questions that Megan's on the call for, since they were mainly data questions and she's the expert on it. Anything else before we pivot to those questions? All right, we'll go ahead and pivot. Megan, do you want to start out?
So let me start off by saying that she's answered the questions that I had, but I had another follow-up question for the response on the no bead. So so if we could scroll down to the response on no bead. Yeah. So my observation was that there were 40% of locations in this round were identified as
I think Ralph's having some internet issues.
Yeah, you froze again, Ralph.
Well, maybe while Ralph is connecting back, maybe we can
Be-
hop to, are you there, Ralph? Okay, how about we move down to the bottom and Ralph joins, we'll go back to him. So Jed, do you want to cover the USF Supreme Court ruling and all the good things happening at that level?
Yeah, I mean, there are some bright points here and there. But we did
Your call will
win.
be connected when you enter the PIN followed by the pound key.
Yeah, sorry about my connection is bad.
Okay. But we
I don't
did win at the Supreme Court on the constitutionality of the USF fund. So Lauren had cut and paste a little snippet there for it, but I thought we'd bring that up to this group that occasionally we do get a win. So that was good. In my mind, and I think in a lot of people's minds, USF needs some pretty drastic reform, but at least the structure of it itself was found constitutional.
Absolutely. We'll take those wins because it's been a little heavy the last 2 months. Another win that we didn't put up here was the AI moratorium in the budget reconciliation bill. We were tracking that pretty closely. And just for your awareness, the original concept was that it was supposed to be a 10-year moratorium on AI regulations for states and territories, and it was tied to, and BEAD was tied to it. So one of the versions of it, which ended up carrying all the way through, went from 10-year moratorium to 10-year moratorium. If you have BEAD dollars and you're a state that regulates AI or has AI regulations, then you don't get your BEAD allocation. And then it turned into now, okay, we're going to reduce the amount of time to 10 years, or sorry, 5 years, go from 10 to 5, with BEAD still attached to it, which we didn't think was better, of course. And actually, from a bipartisan perspective, I don't think anybody on either side of the aisle was very pleased with what was going on with AI and BEAD too. And so ultimately, it was completely stripped out of the big, beautiful bill that was signed off on 4th of July. So we're free and clear from AI moratoriums, as well as losing or having to do some heavy work, heavy lifting process to make sure we retain our BEAD dollars. So that was another federal legislation win for us as well. Actually, yeah, that was a good segue. It was right below. But yeah, so that's where we are with the regulations and some of the national policies right now. So one less thing to worry about, or 2 less things to worry about. So we'll take it. We'll take it. Anybody have any questions on that before we hop over to Ralph? Assuming your internet's okay, we can entertain that question that you have for us.
Yeah. No, my observation was that 40% were identified as no BEAD, which says all locations within the project area have been identified as locations that do not require BEAD funding. And then the explanation is lots changed. The no BEAD locations reflect new enforceable commitments. So 2024 BDB awards, wouldn't they just be removed from the locations if they were already have enforceable commitments?
Megan, do you want to touch on that?
Sure. So the way that the NTIA has written the guidance basically says that we have to keep all this stuff in our eligible location list.
Oh,
And have it available for bidding until, until we submit our final proposal. So the NTIA has created all these no BEAD reason codes. So we've identified a bunch of stuff under those reason codes, and we can't apply it until we submit our final proposal. And we need to leave it in the eligible location list available for bidding until, or, you know, like everything has to be available for bidding in this benefit of the bargain round.
Okay,
we
but
just,
those,
we're not
so
allowed
the,
to take it out.
yeah, no, okay, all right, that helps a lot. But the eligibility codes are not, are those available to applicants to understand, you know, whether it makes any sense for them to bid for them or not?
We did not include that in the list.
Okay. It
Which
yeah,
I did not include them because we are still like, you know, we're finalizing evidence codes and all that kind of stuff that goes into the final proposal.
okay,
So we, and there's some that have like potential for multiple reason codes, like
okay,
it has an enforceable commitment and it got removed from the fabric. So,
okay. All right.
you know, we're still
Okay, no,
sorting
that,
out those details.
okay, that helps. Now I understand. Okay, so, yeah, that's helpful. It wasn't entirely clear from that response, but this helps. Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Yep.
Ralph, did you want to touch on your other two questions, or you're good with the responses?
No, those are fine. I only had a follow-up for that one.
Yeah, okay.
I have a question. It might be kind of stupid, but I'm just wondering if any of those locations include the ones, I think it was the RDOF funding that some of the ISPs had to return the money because they, I guess, didn't make good on the contract or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, so we, with the new policy notice, they gave us the opportunity or the requirements to add those back in. So we had 1,157 locations that had been defaulted that don't have, you know, qualifying service. So those got added into our eligible location list and are now available for bidding.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So that kind of wraps. Oh, actually, one more thing. Before we wrap up and do open discussion for new items or anything that we need more clarity on, just want to talk about capital projects fund update. Our plan is to open up an application for that remaining money, $690,000. I know we've talked about it a few times. The redo of BEAD kind of makes it a little bit tricky from a timeline perspective because we were going to be done with BEAD and then just roll right into opening up that CPF application so that we're not layering two grant applications on top of our applicants because it's a lot of work. But because of BEAD, we're still just going to have to move forward. We're looking at August for an opening for that. So just stay tuned. We're going to try to do our best to get that money spent by the end of next year. And so with that being said, we're going to start what next year? Are you surprised at the timeline,
No.
Jeff? I
No,
thought
I
you
was
knew.
responding to Ralph. He said he didn't read the guidelines. And I said,
Oh,
what?
he didn't read the. Oh, okay.
I thought you were
I highly
responding to
encourage you to
ours,
read the
too.
guidelines. The guidelines answer probably 90% or 99% of your questions. So
Nobody's going to
Probably.
pick up a 180-page document.
I know. It's rough. We need like cliff notes for all these federal documents. They're a little excessive, like the costs that they keep talking about. But yeah, so be looking, we're gonna still, that hasn't fallen to the wayside. Also with that, we are gonna start within the next month or two sending we're gonna send reminders to applicants of the CPF program of their timelines. Because we're almost a year out from a year and a half, which for me feels like 6 months, because we cram so much in such a short period of time. But we're going to start sending proactive reminders and timeframes for people to understand that, to let them know that, hey, if you don't spend this money, it will go away. There is no extension. And I think even in the current political environment, there's, the whole, there's emphasis on saving money. So I don't, us pleading for extensions, I don't know how far that's going to go, because we've been told that it's pretty hard line. So we just want to make sure people are spending their money so we don't have to give any money back. So we're going to start that process here in the next month or two, reminding people that the clock is ticking on CPF dollars. So and want to make sure we're successful there. Anybody else have any questions for us or any comments before we just go into open discussion? Okay. Open discussion. Anybody want to share any of their thoughts at this point?
No, just amazing work in short amount of time to adapt. It's a big challenge. So kudos for that.
Thanks, Ralph. We appreciate it. It's definitely unprecedented. And even the best state grant programs, it's never that quick. So this is truly a huge effort by many, and for OIT as well, because OIT, they're not like before we kind of decided we were grant making, we didn't do grants. So it's just everybody's done such a fantastic job mobilizing to get things out the door quickly. So thank you. Go ahead, Eric.
I was just, I guess it was a question of what you've already presented, but I guess it still qualifies in this section. I hadn't looked at that scalable questionnaire benefit of the bargain round file before, but just after reviewing it, I'm wondering, is that just the kind of self-reported capabilities that the applicant is going to provide, or they have to back that up with anything that's real as far as what's been demonstrable by whatever their technology they choose is?
It's both, to answer your question. It's both. So you have to be able to substantiate what your claims are, right? So we'll be able to review what people submit, applicants submit, and then go verify the information as needed. So it's both. Can't make stuff up. Judd, do you want to chime in?
No, I think it is both. And, we may have some back and forth between the CBO and the applicant to clarify, any questions that we have.
Thanks.
Yep.
So just for clarity, besides the technologies that were listed in the initial volume for proposals, what other technologies now? Are there any more other than satellite? Or satellite systems that will be used or can be used by internet service providers to provide internet service in rural areas specifically?
Well, Leo was always part of the original program. And so, I think the technology that we've added, and Megan, you can chime in, but unlicensed fixed wireless is now a player in the BEAD program where it wasn't. And we're not doing DSL, right? I never got really good clarity on that, but Megan, maybe you can chime in on that too.
Yeah, I think I think we lumped DSL with the other category.
Mhm.
So if they want to propose that, they have to fill out the scalable technology questionnaire and prove it's scalable. And then, yeah, unlicensed fixed wireless was considered an alternative technology before, and now it is just, they've gotten rid of that designation essentially. So it's treated the same way as everything else. Same with Leo.
Okay, thank you.
So anybody else? Open discussion, anything you want to hear about next time in August? Besides kind of our bead results. So we'll have
Would there be
those.
anything else to talk about?
Well,
Just kidding.
there's always something to talk about, depending on the day, right? Hopefully the days are quiet. We just want to be able to focus on the task at hand and not have any new ideas, I guess, if you will, especially on the federal side. Right? You know, new ideas coming from CBO. Yes, we love talking about those things because that also is a lot of that stuff is stakeholder driven. So we like talking about what our stakeholders really care about from a policy perspective. So love our ideas, love our stakeholders' ideas. It just the feds are. And their ideas are fine too, to the extent that they're implementable and they make sense. But there's just been a lot of focus on BEAD and having to redo the program. Put some of our work on. I guess it's just layered on top of the work that we're trying to do to meet our statewide needs. So we're looking forward to wrapping this up sometime soon. After it would probably carry us through the end of the year. So we're probably noodling on BEAD for another 6 to 9 months before we can actually do anything. So we're just holding on tight and riding the wave, if you will, and hopefully we'll see some results and we can actually implement. So but yeah, go ahead, Sandra.
Thank you. And thank you for entertaining all my questions. I'll
Yeah,
step
no
back.
worries. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Oh, thanks. So for scalability, does that includes like the speeds, upload and download speeds? Did any of that change, or was it minimized, or anything in this new process?
No, I think you still have to meet the minimum speeds and latency, all of that from a broadband performance perspective and on standard. So that really hasn't changed. Scalability, you need to be able to obviously meet future demands. Part of it is they didn't give like, oh, you have to scale to 1 gig or anything that specific, but the one specific that they did, well, obviously scalability would be that. But they did talk about meeting the needs of 5G. So that was really specific. As so we're there, you have to scale. I think the major difference is that it's not as specific as it was before, like in the previous guidance, and then also like in other federal programs, for like CPF, for example, it's 100/20 scale to 1 gig, right? So I just they set the minimum standard, which is what we've been working with the entire time. But and in the scalability document, if you look at it, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. There's specifics there. Since the NTI didn't really give us many specifics on like scalable technology, we added a bunch and we had that flexibility to do that. So so I encourage you to look at how we're kind of defining scalability and what it looks like, because that's where that information lives. But nothing's really changed there, Sandra. It's just it's one of many requirements. It's one of a few requirements. I wouldn't say many. In our initial proposal, we actually had specifics around what scalable looked like. And the more you scaled upwards, the more points you received from your proposal. So that's we can no longer really do that per se, but it's still part of the mix.
Okay. All right, I'll check out the document. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a lot of jargon there, though. Sometimes I look at it, my eyes gloss over, but it's all there.
Thank you so much.
Anything else before we wrap up early? We could certainly wrap up early, give you guys some time back in your afternoon. Okay, well, if you guys have anything in between now and the time we meet, please reach out. We're happy to answer any questions as they come up. And if you're also hearing anything about anything, please let us know. Again, always appreciate your patience and the support of the broadband office as we go through another version of Beats. So, but anyway, we'll get through it. We'll get on the other side of this and do good things. So, hopefully you guys have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.